Most people think that I moved to most people think that I left America and moved to Africa, um, to find myself. The truth, I moved to protect my future. After being here for 5 years, I realized this move was about protection. This was about strategy. So let's talk about the plan B that no one is telling you about. All right. So welcome to the live stream. If you're over on Instagram, welcome. Welcome everyone over on YouTube. It's a Friday night in Cape Town and it's cold, y'all. So I am in the house, just had dinner with my family, and I wanted to hop on here because the community has been growing and a lot of people don't know why I moved to Africa from the USA. This is the wealth strategy that no one is talking about, and I'm going to share that with you today. All right. So, most people think that I moved to Africa to find myself, but what they don't know is that I moved to protect my future. Ultimately, 5 years in, almost 5 years in, I'm realizing that this was a strategic move to protect my future. And in this video, we're talking about the things that no one is telling you, the plan B that no one's telling you. Hi, Jamara. Welcome. Welcome to the live. Hi, April over on YouTube. Welcome. Regina, good to see you again as well. Thank you for coming over on the live. Let me holler at y'all on Instagram. Hi, Stefan, Nefertiti, Nicole, lovely Lise, Kisa, MJLU75, welcome. Heaven Sent, welcome everyone on the live. If you want to join us over on YouTube, you're welcome to. I can absolutely see your questions a lot better. But in this video, I'm going to tell you why I made the move to Africa from the US, specifically Atlanta, and really how we need to be looking at this move or this movement, right, as a plan B and C that no one is talking about. Okay, so first, this is going to be a conversation. I'm going to share the links a little bit later if you want to join me on live. Let me throw up some branding because we're currently promoting our event next week, the Travel Move Do Business online conference. And so I want you to have access to that, of course, because that is the ticket to strategy that you really, really want to get. But we're going to get deep into a couple of conversations and questions and what I was thinking, why did I do what I did, so that ultimately you can get a frame of reference, because a plan B in this world that we're living in is no longer optional. It is necessary, okay? And so type yes in the chat if you've ever felt like the American dream wasn't for you, right? Let me know. Type yes in the chat if you felt like, that American dream thing, that's not really for me. Type yes in the chat. I see you. Thank you for my yeses over there. Over here on YouTube, Sid says yes. Angela says yes. April says yes. Angela says yes. Sid says yes twice. Okay. Over here on Instagram, Barbie Girl says yes. Kot says yes. 48 Research says yes. Yeah, this American dream, is that for us? It didn't feel like it was for me, even though I was doing all the right things, right? And I'll tell you a little bit about my story in a minute. To all the new people in the community, yeah, y'all might not have gone back to day one videos. Maybe some of you have, but I really want to share with you why I decided to leave the US. So go ahead, be sure to like this video. Let other people know that we're live, right? That we're sharing this information because it is imperative that we recognize that a plan B in this season is necessary. And so I want you to feel equipped telling you my story, and sharing with you some of the mistakes I made, some of the things I didn't think about. So if you're thinking about this, you have some clarity, right? You have some feedback. So go ahead, like this video. We've got about 16 people over on YouTube. It looks like we've got some folks on Instagram. So just like the video, share it with someone. Let me know in the chat what city you're watching from. I also want to know that. So let me know where you're watching from. Regina says you're right here from Johannesburg. Wonderful. Yeah, Sid, we're talking about the American dream and if it's ready, if it's achievable. I don't know. Yeah, let me know where you're joining from. Let's jump into that. Hi, Regina from Johannesburg. Angela from Huntsville. Okay, April from LA, Los Angeles, California. Hi, baby. I can't turn on the heater right now. Okay. Sorry. All right. Jamara from Houston. All right. Welcome. Welcome from LA, Huntsville, South Africa, Houston. All right. All right. So let's jump into this. So the moment I knew staying in the US wasn't sustainable, right? So I see some of you all in the chat talking about the American dream not being achievable, is, too expensive to live, it's not worth it, it's not achievable. For me, I realized the US wasn't sustainable. What was that moment? It was the collision of moments. I was about a year after postpartum, right? So my youngest daughter was 1. Gonna be 2. We were in the beginning stages of the pandemic that we all experienced. And I'll say a little bit backstory. Oh, I didn't even realize this. So how is my sound, guys? Can you guys hear me a bit better? I had no idea that it wasn't, that I had this connected. So if you can hear me okay, type 1 in the chat. So for some of you guys that are new to the community, I left a 6-figure career in corporate, very influential, high exposed career in industry, living in Atlanta, Georgia, Brookhaven, Georgia, a beautiful townhome, 3-level townhome, luxury vehicles, designer bags, shoes, all of those things, right? And when the pandemic happened, family of 4 at the time, on the outside, everything looked great, checking all the boxes, went to, these great PWIs, private white, or not private, primarily white institutions, had done all of the right things, right? And ultimately, I was laid off for the 3rd time in 5 years. And so I had to do some really deep diving work. Of course, I was coming out of a corporate career. If you're a Black woman in America and you know what the environment is like for Black women in corporate, go ahead and type "I do" in the chat. Whether it's corporate, education, politics, I feel like entertainment, you know what it's like working in the industry or any industry as a Black woman. You're dealing with a lot of toxicity, a lot of emotional, mental abuse, right? You just kind of cope with it, you deal with it. And so that's just something that, many of us were familiar with. So wonderful. Hi, Leah. Thank you for joining the live. And so where was I, guys? I got thrown off. Okay. Laid off, deep work, trauma at work. And I realized, there's a lot. It takes a lot to do this thing that I've been doing, checking the boxes, working 60 hours a week, making 6 figures, living this lifestyle, right? I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life, but I am the least happiest I've ever been. What is happening and why is this happening, right? Like, who's responsible for this? And of course, I could point to the structure, the system. I was able to point at some of the people in my life at the time. I was able to even point at my children and their demands and needs on me. But what I did that eventually changed the trajectory of my life was I reflected in my inward. What am I choosing that is putting me in a position of such discomfort? Because nothing changes until you decide to change. And that was what I learned in that process. Nothing and no one was going to change unless and until I was willing to make a change. And so I did some really deep diving and I realized, hey, I'm living in a society that says motherhood is not valuable. I'm living in a society that says, as a Black woman, I am 100% likely to earn less than my white counterpart, even though I'm probably going to have to do more work than him just to keep my position and in my job. I'm living in a society where I have to teach my children that they don't get to have the same access as a person their exact same age, their exact same height, whatever, but has a different lack of melanin. I'm living in a society that is clearly not committed to valuing me, my melanin, my Blackness, and the value that I bring to the society. So I am choosing to be in an environment that essentially doesn't really care about the things that I value. And so that was really the moment of reflection. Everyone was sitting down, everyone was stuck inside. And, we had a lot of time to think. We had a lot of time to praise and worship. I was listening to a lot of praise and worship, a lot of pastors online, a lot of music, doing a lot of journaling. And I realized, hey, I am living in this place. And this place is making me feel very anxious, making me feel very hopeless, making me feel like I've always got to fight. I'm tired of fighting. I want to live. How many of you want to live? If you want to live in the chat, if you want to live, type, I want to live in the chat. And if you feel like you're living, then type, I'm living. Right. But I realized I was in a state of just checking the boxes. My life was on autopilot and there was nothing that I could do to change the system around me. I had to make a change for myself. All right. So that was the moment I knew staying wasn't sustainable. It was probably this time, actually. Wow. Like maybe June of 2020. So I know we're in July now, but June of 2020, I was like, this ain't it. It's not working. Okay. There was I was experiencing emotional burnout, the instability of the political chaos, the George Floyd, murder. I know we're on YouTube, so the taking out of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, like there was all of this stuff going on, and I was like, this is not sustainable, and there is going to be there's got to be something else. There's got to be something else. There has to be. There is no way that the world is experiencing every single thing that this place is experiencing. And that is the moment that I realized. So I chose to do a practice, and I do this with my clients inside the Africa Wealth Strategy system, where we go through a process of value. So I'm going to give you guys some proper life-changing information right in this moment. So please take this note. I do this with my clients, and we do a values alignment exercise, right? So one of the things that will shift you from survival to thriving is living a value-aligned life. Okay, that's just one of the things, right? There are many things that will take you out of survival mode. But the first step to that is living in alignment with your values. Is the environment that you're in alignment with your values? So, for example, you say you value family, but you work 60 hours a week and you might spend 10 hours a week with your family. Thank you, baby. There's a misalignment there. You're saying you value family, but your time, your resources, your most valuable resource that you can never get back is not with the thing you say you value or the persons that you say you value. So I did this, and I wrote down the things that I value, and I measured them up with my money and my time. This was the first time I had ever spent so much time with my children. It was the first time I had ever spent so much time with myself, right? And so that is when I knew, okay, if I'm saying I value this thing, but my time and my money aren't lining up, I've got to make some changes, right? So some of those values at the time included adventure, it included peace, it included family, and it included joy. And in that very moment, I was by default spending time with family because everyone was. Well, if you were doing right by your family, you were at home with them. Or if you were, necessary worker, of course, people had to be separated from their family. But some people chose, you know what, I'm going to make a priority and be at home in this moment. I'm going to do the things that I feel align with my value. And that was it. I chose a value aligned life over survival mode. All right. So if you can relate with this message, let me know. Give me some fire emojis. Give me some hearts in the chat. I want to see how you're feeling about this. I want to see if this message is resonating with you. All right. Angela says, speak. Thanks, Angela. The only one, says you are so correct. Justin says, I like nature, looking at Tanzania. April said, I needed this live. Just came from corporate America, grinding daily, burnt out, of course. Leah says she wants to live abundantly, and you are worthy of that, okay? And it is your birthright to be living abundantly, all right? The only one gives me some heart, some fire. Yes, thank you for that. Let me check over on Instagram and see if y'all, how are y'all feeling? Yes, hearts, appreciate. Thank you for my hearts. Okay, so let me give you some stats around global strategy, right? So a little bit more, actually, let me take a step back from the global strategy piece, because like I said, I was literally trying to save my future, and saving my future looked like making a very strategic decision. It wasn't about just, excitement, right? It wasn't about I'm running away from these things I no longer value. I now have to seek out value driven spaces, right? That was adventure, that was joy, that was peace. Where could I go that offered me these things and an opportunity to spend time with my family? So I did my research, I got online, and I came across a profile online of a friend of mine who at the time we were just, we were colleagues, we weren't super close, but she was posting. And she was in Tanzania. She was in East Africa, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. I started doing my research. I'm like, okay, cool. What's going on in Tanzania? Fastest growing economy, in one of the fastest growing economies in the world, right? Super peaceful, one of the safest countries in the world, very economically and politically stable, fresh fruits and vegetables, year-round tropical weather. Sounds great to me. Coastal regions, mountainous regions, but like everything, and the cost of living, right? Family. You could get helpers, there for a really affordable price. The cost of living was really affordable. I was telling her, I've got about a budget of maybe $1,000, $1,500 a month to find a place. She was like, girl, you're not even going to need that. I ended up securing a house, a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house for about $500. It wasn't even $500 a month. So the cost of living, the quality of life was great. And the terrain, the vast terrain of Tanzania gave me access to the ocean, the mountains, Mount Kilimanjaro, nature reserves, right? The Serengeti, Ngorongoro crater. It was all of those things. So I was like, bet this is where I'm going to pursue the values that I have of peace, adventure, joy, and family. And there were a couple more, of course, but those were at the time, I can think of the top 5 that I can think of. So I made a strategic move. I did some research. I asked a friend, I determined my finances and I said, okay, how long can I make this work? At the time, I think I was thinking about maybe 6 months, maybe, I knew I could do 3 months as an American on a visa. Um, and then I could, renew that for another 3 months. So 6 months max, I'll be back in the US. And that turned into 2 years, which is actually off and on. I'm back between South Africa and Tanzania, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So if this is resonating, yes, Sid says yes. If it's resonating, let me know. Let me know in the chat. It's really helpful for me to know. And like this video if you're finding value in it, okay? It really helps the channel. It helps get the message out because we need people to know in this season, you need a plan B and a plan C, okay? There is no longer an option to stay put in an environment that is telling you is ready to do some shifts. Things are changing and you're not being thought of in the change. And if you are being thought of in the change, use that for your advantage to position yourself with a plan B for long-term growth. Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? The truth about global strategy. So for many of you that are new to the channel, right, I help people diversify their real estate and financial investments on the continent of Africa. That's what I do now. I am driving economic growth and development to the countries that I live in South Africa and Tanzania, because for me, being bi-coastal is something I was doing in the US. I was working in New York and living in Atlanta, right? Traveling for work very often. So the bi-coastal lifestyle and living in multiple cities, working and doing business in multiple cities is nothing new to me. But I chose to be in two cities, Johannesburg, or initially, right now, Cape Town, South Africa, and Dar es Salaam, both coastal cities, but both very, very, very different. I love the lifestyle here in South Africa, the views, the nature, the diversity of people, perspectives, religions, language, right? You get that here in Cape Town, South Africa. And in Dar es Salaam, it is a lot more homogeneous, right? Mostly everybody's Black. There are some Europeans there as well, and some Indian descendants of Indians in Dar es Salaam, and in Zanzibar. But it's becoming a lot more multiracial. I mean, the Chinese, of course, they're setting up shop. They're skyrocketing in their shop. So diversity is absolutely coming to East Africa and specifically in Tanzania. But less than 2% of entrepreneurs have an international wealth and growth plan, right? So this was something that I strategically looked at because I see the change. I'm also, and my background is economics, right? So economic development is what I did kind of later in my career. I studied economics and always thought I would be an economist later in life. But I thought it would look completely different than it looks now. I get excited about economics. And so now living outside of the country, of my home country, I've learned that geopolitics and the global economic dynamics are so different than what we're taught in the US. And so having a global strategy in this season is super powerful. I mean, if you're in the US, you're seeing the changes in trade patterns, right? You're essentially in the middle of a trade war where the president is making it really hard for certain countries to do business with America, creating, just creating a lack of allyship that has historically been the position of America. And so with these global shifts in this trade war, you can't afford to not be looking outside of the home place that you're in, because what is going to happen for Americans in America are prices are going to continue to rise, wages are going to continue to decline, and the volatility between political parties, classes, and racial demographics is only going to get more and more hostile and intense. And so if you're already feeling these things, right, thinking that things are going to change or get back to a normal place is not a strategic thing. The strategic thing is to say, okay, I know I can't control what's happening here. Sitting out, not doing anything, saying it's not your fight is also not a great strategy either. If you're looking for your future and your children's future, looking in environments where the progress is happening, economic development is happening, opportunity is happening, growth is happening, job creation and industry creation is happening. Adaptation of AI technology in a way that is not minimizing a people, right? Where you can now take the opportunities and the advancements of technology and solve really, really, really big problems for an enormous amount of people, right? These opportunities are being more accepted in developing nations, not just in African countries, right? But developing nations in the Eastern and global South. And so these are the things that most entrepreneurs, less than 2%, are thinking about. And so if you're not an entrepreneur in the chat, let me know just so I know who I'm talking to. So if you're an entrepreneur, type entrepreneur. If you are a 9 to 5, that's okay, type 9 to 5. But what I do know is if you're in America right now and you're making over $60,000 a year, you have a high level skill that can position you to get into your entrepreneurial bag and become an independent problem solver, because someone's already paying you 60 to 70,000 or more for your problem solving. So you can take that same problem solving skill and potentially turn that into $100 to $150,000, right? But taking action on that is really, really important in this season. All right. So Jamara says entrepreneur. Yes. What about you guys over on Instagram? Entrepreneur. Okay, fantastic. All right. So the importance of being an entrepreneur is, especially in this season and moving to the continent of Africa, investing in a business is the better option, right? Investing in yourself and in your income creation is what will sustain you in any environment, whether it's the US or in any other country. Being a value creator is so important in this season, and being able to help solve other people's problems and big problems long term so that you can create a level of independence. So for some of you, that's just the plan B, value creation, problem solving, right? So the best way, get up over here on YouTube University, take your skill set, how to take whatever skill set blank and turn it into a business. How to take nursing and turn it into a business. How to take project management and turn it into a business. How to take my skills in HR and turn it into a business. How to take education, right? So whatever that is, let's start being value creators and driving our own independence, right? Our own economic independence, because y'all, the only way towards economic freedom is entrepreneurship, right? Yes, you can build wealth. Well, you can build some capital at a job. You can buy some real estate. But I talk to people right now that have jobs, 45, 50 years old, the golden handcuffs. Yes, they might have $1 million in their 401k or in their investment accounts. But that job wants them there until they're 65 years old, until they can retire. And they're in that job until they're 65, despite the illnesses that persist, the time away from their family. This goes back to values, right? It goes back to values. And so, Yolanda, you can't hear me. I'm not sure if anybody else can't hear me. Let me know in the chat. It might be a you thing, sis. It might be. It might be. It might not be, but let me know. All right. So, yes. So entrepreneurship, I preach it because being an entrepreneur is not only the way you're going to access your freedom independently, but it's the only way you can really make your move and sustain yourself on the continent of Africa, unless you are retired, right? You got a pension, you've got, something, your military benefits. There are plenty of people that do that. I'm talking about the non-retirees, the folks that are under retirement age, and you're kind of in between, right? You're in your 30s, even your late 20s. I talk to people in their late 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. You're gonna have to be a value creator independently, earning an income to sustain yourself. All right. Thank you, Regina. I'm not sure, Yolanda, what the sound issue is for you, but it looks like other people can hear me fine. So maybe pop in or out of the app. Maybe that would be helpful. All right, so let's talk more about the global strategy. All right, if this is helpful, type yes in the chat. Let me know if this is helpful, if this is resonating with you. If you're over on Instagram and you want to come to YouTube, go ahead, type Ashley in Africa on YouTube, come over here, or go ahead while we're live, get the link sent to you. Type Tanzania in the live chat to get the link sent to you to join us online, okay? Sounds like new pensions are still looking to open a service business. Yeah. I mean, business and driving, because the goal, right, is long-term sustainability. Being retired and getting a pension is great, right? But what type of legacy happens after that? What are you building? What are you leaving for the community after that? So not only is this about wealth, creation, this is about legacy creation, and it's about leverage, right? If you like leverage, then you've got to be looking abroad. You've got to be looking outside of your environment, because the environment that you're in is minimizing your leverage every day, taking away your rights, taking away your history, taking away your sense of self, right? Taking away your time with your family and friends. You're losing leverage in the environment, right? Building things to sustain just a bare minimum quality of life, right? Not the American dream that you were promised. How about being, living the American dream in Africa, right? Because that's what so many people are achieving once they decide to take the leap. Because missed opportunities cost high income earners 6 figures annually. There is a cost of waiting. The cost of waiting is costing. So I shared this back on the live a couple months ago, for people that were investing in Ghana real estate. So let's just say in January, you decided, no, let's get a little closer. So in April of this year, you were looking at a property in Ghana that cost $100,000 in April. In June, that same $100,000 property now is going to cost you $140,000 because the CD gained 40% growth against the US dollar. And it happened to several people. So in May, they were negotiating, in April and May, they were negotiating $100,000 US dollars home. And in June, that same home went up $140,000. Waiting cost them $40,000 in 2 months. So what do you think it's going to cost you with your 2-year plan, your 3-year plan, your 10-year plan? Waiting is going to cost. Real estate growth across the continent of Africa is growing in double digits every year. Some 11%, 18%, 30% in some markets, right? So missed opportunities are going to cost high income earners 6 figures annually at this point. If you're not earning 6 figures, it's not costing you that much. But if you're earning 6 figures in income every year and you're missing out on certain opportunities, it is costing you. And not to mention the taxes that you're paying in the US are going to continue to rise, right? If you're making a substantial amount of income. So entrepreneurs without global diversification are 4 times more vulnerable to be affected by volatility, right? So if you're only invested in one economy, we saw what happened in 2018. The cycles predict every 8 years, right? So we're coming up on 2026. Every 7 to 8 years, there are major economic events that happen in the US, right? And thinking that you can outsmart the market is just not a great thing. But if you're a student of economics or just history, then you know that there has been a major economic event, right? And being only invested in one market with everything that is around us telling us that changes are inevitable, that the global shift of power is here, you are going to be 5 times more vulnerable to that economic shift. All right? So that's the truth about global strategy. Drop a fire emoji in the chat if you've ever lost money by waiting too long to act. How many of y'all ever lost money by waiting too long to act? How many of you guys missed out on Bitcoin? I was invested in Bitcoin at $30,000, right? At $30,000, I invested in Bitcoin, right? I heard about Bitcoin when it was like at 12,000. And by the time I invested, it was 30,000. Now it's 100,000 plus, right? How many of you all lost money to waiting? If you've desired to move to the continent of Africa, even in the currency exchange, in the markets in which I do business, Tanzania, South Africa, the currencies are now stronger against the dollar than they were when I first got here, right? So Layla, this is not investment advice, right? This is strategy advice. I'm talking to you guys about strategy, because if you do not have a strategy for a plan B in today's environment, it's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you peace. It's going to cost you things that are intangible that you cannot get back. So you absolutely need to have a strategy. And so that's what we're doing. We're talking strategy next week at the Travel Move Do Business online conference for Tanzania, right? You're gonna hear from other people, not just me, my friends, my attorney, my advisors, people that have advised me, that have taught me in this process, other people that have done it, families that are retired, families, married couples, individuals building restaurants, hospitality businesses, tourism businesses, farms, real estate companies, right? You're going to hear from them and they're going to share with you their story. All right. So if you are interested in joining, I want to, let me share that link over on YouTube. If you're interested in joining the event, Travel Move Do Business online conference for Tanzania, go ahead and comment Tanzania in the chat on Instagram. And then the link for the Travel Move Do Business conference, I'm about to drop it in the chat. There you go. And then I will run it across the bottom here. If you're finding value in this, please be sure to like the video. Go ahead and share some super chats. It's Friday night. It's Friday night. Let's get live. Y'all get engaged. I see some questions. I'm going to come back to questions in a moment. I promise you, I'll come back to some questions in a moment. So if I don't see any fire emojis about losing money. So maybe y'all aren't, maybe you don't want to talk about it, and I get it, right? But this is a safe space. This is a very safe space, because I lost money. I lost money waiting on Bitcoin. I lost money investing in a couple projects here that I should have invested in immediately, right? That I was like, oh, but this is the thing. Time waits for no one. Fortune favors the bold, right? And so time waits for no one. And to take action is essentially where the favor follows. And so I'm happy that y'all are all here, right? Because you're getting insight, you're getting value, you're getting feedback, but don't just take my word for it. If Tanzania is on your list, and I can share with you why, there are so many reasons why Tanzania should be on your list, why it's on my list, why I live in between both countries, because there are so many things that are in alignment with my values and my lifestyle and my future goals, my wealth strategy that exist in Tanzania. All right. So where are we? Fantastic. So y'all aren't telling me if you lost some money by waiting. I get it. But if you know that it's time to think bigger, go ahead and type strategy in the chat. If you know that it's time to think bigger, right? So stop thinking just on what you're being told in the media, what you've learned in school. Then type strategy in the chat. Okay. Thanks, Patricia, for being honest. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Let me answer some of these questions. We'll answer some of these questions in a moment. All right. So now building my life in Africa, right? And people are like, oh, you need to say where you live in Africa. No, I can say wherever I want on this platform. And Africa is a continent and it is a land mass that I am in belief that it is the birthright of melanated people. So I'm everywhere and anywhere that I desire to be. And currently that is in between Cape Town, South Africa, and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Why is that? Well, number one, I have always lived abroad. I have always lived, bi-coastal, right? Well, not always. It was always a dream of mine. And later in my career, or let's say later because I'm still in, but in my corporate career, I had an opportunity to do that, living in Atlanta and working in New York and traveling back and forth, living in between the two cities. So that's why it was something I always desired to do. But for this reason, it was a bit more strategic because I don't love the winter. And when I discovered that South Africa had winter, it became very clear to me that I would need to spend my winters abroad. And that's what many people do this side of the world. It's what many Europeans do. Europeans in the winter, they come and they flock to the Southern Hemisphere. And many people here in South Africa, they go to Europe during this winter time. I choose to go to East Africa, Zanzibar, and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and I love it. But I also have business in Tanzania. For me, Tanzania is a long game. Okay. Tanzania is like home. I mean, the year-round tropical weather, the organic fruits and vegetables, the produce, the way that I eat in Tanzania is unmatched. Having coconuts every day, having mangoes and watermelons and parachichi and passion fruits and pineapple and like everything. Just the food is excellent. It's good for my melanin. It's good for my soul. It's good for my just my spirit feels very soft in Dar es Salaam, and it's slow. It's a slower, simpler life, right? Here in Cape Town, it's more laid back than Johannesburg, of course, but it also gives me some of that ocean, the mountains. It's, I still get to have the Western experience, going to the malls and, just having that experience that I'm familiar with being an American, right? My patterns in life, like I lived a Western life. And so while I love certain things about Western societies, there's things I don't love about Western societies. And while I love certain things about slower pace of living, there are things that sometimes get me a little frustrated because doing business in Tanzania takes time. It's pole pole, it's relationships. But I have amazing friends in Tanzania. I have amazing family networks. I'm learning the language. It is such a home base for me that I'll never choose in between the two if I don't have to. And I don't. And what does daily life look like for me? Business, parenting, it's very different than it used to be. I joke and laugh and say 6 years ago, I was a drill sergeant when it came to structure. I was up at 5:30. Lunches were packed. Get in the car. Wake up. It's time to go to school. Get out the door. Just stress out, like just doing the most, right? Purchasing tons of food and things from Costco. Um, just really in a cycle, right? In a mundane cycle. Now, my girls in school, they've chosen, we've done international school here, we've done local private school, we've also done homeschool. Our life right now, I'd say, is pretty amazing. I mean, it's not perfect because no one's life is perfect, but we have slow mornings together. We sit down and have breakfast in the morning as a family, unless I decide I want to have breakfast in bed. I get to work from home most of the week. I have meetings with clients when they're in country. I had a dinner with a family a couple days ago. Some of my clients from the US that are coming that came to South Africa to look at real estate on a real estate tour, but also independently with our firm, Skyline Attorney Realtors. And, I'm the media brand is growing. I'm currently working with an attorney that's helping me become investor ready as we are looking and seeking investors. Well, really being attracted by investors that want to invest in the platform of Ashley in Africa. And we need to prepare ourselves legally so that we're protected as well as the investors that invest in our platform. And parenting looks intentional, right? It looks intentional. We're breaking all types of, you know, things that existed being a parent in my family in ways that weren't positive, right? Everybody did the best that they could with what they had, but now we're getting to make intentional choices about how we are mothering and daughtering in each other's spaces. Daily life is beautiful. Daily life is an adjusting, right, to the cultures, and also definitely adjusting to grief. I was sharing this with the family that was here. And so, while yes, it is beautiful, it's not always perfect and it's not always easy. I have grief moments regularly, more so around big moments of birthdays or, graduations, beginning of the school year, end of the school year, big moments where I am grieving the life that I thought I would have. Um, but grateful about the life that I do have, but grieving the fact that certain family members and friends can't be here with me, don't see the same vision that I have, don't see the value in the lifestyle that I've created here, and thus aren't as connected to me as they once were. Or, just the things that I'm having to work through and learn, just being a mom, being an entrepreneur, living in another country, leaving everything that I knew behind and saying, I'm going to try something different. And so those moments of grief, they come, like they're real, you know, they're real, they're heavy, but they're so much a part of the growth, right? I asked for change, and you cannot ask for change without being willing to change. And so the willingness is what has me going through an experience that is not easy. It's very challenging, but it's a beautiful peace and ease that I get to experience that I know I would have never gotten to experience within this time frame that I'm experiencing now. Maybe, in my 60s or 70s when I was retired, but just imagine the choosing something different, and kind of breaking out of the box of the system that told me that I had to work and then I would get to do this eventually, right? If I made it there. And I'm seeing so many of my friends in their 30s, in their 40s, contract rare forms of cancer. Had a really close friend, um, friend, you know, deleted at her job because of you know, a mass shooter, like in her 30s, a beautiful young woman in her career, right? So, yeah, I mean, I've been building my life And every day looks different. Fortunately, I'm grateful for that. Every day looks different in my parenting journey and my business journey. But overall, like, it's good. It's great. Some of you may have seen the videos. Zanaya did an internship. She was offered a job at her internship in Stone Town, Zanzibar. They're going to talk to you. They're actually going to talk to you directly at the Travel Move Do Business Conference for Tanzania. They're going to share what their life is like in Tanzania as, you know, a 6-year-old and a 14-year-old, and what it's been like for them. So if you have children and you're thinking about making this move, you absolutely want to be at the Travel Move Do Business and bring your children. This is a family friendly experience. I brought my children into the process, right? I brought them into the process when I decided that we were going to do something different and explore Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And so if you have children and you want to know what is it like for children, hear it from them, right? Because I can tell you what I can tell you, but they're going to talk to you directly and share what their experience was like making friends, adjusting, speaking the language, going from having a mom that was always working and stressed out and never around to the mom that's always around all day. You know, I have my time for sure. I have my mommy time and my days out with my friends and dating and all of that, but they're going to get to tell you like what it's been like having a mom. You know, my oldest didn't get me in the softness that I am now, where my youngest, like, I've been a stay-at-home mom her entire pretty much life. You know, after 1.5, after I got laid off from my job, I never went back to work. And so that's a completely different experience that my oldest got from my youngest, right? And just the difference in the dynamic of parenting has just been a beautiful experience. And I have the freedom and the freedom to have creativity, to be versatile, to be a generalist, to be a value creator, to support and hold space for people that are doing this, taking this leap, right? That have an interest in moving and doing business on a continent. And so that freedom to build, that freedom to invest, and that freedom to breathe is how it looks, you know, building a life here on the continent. So that's what it's been like building my life here, getting, you know, businesses off the ground at Skyline Attorney Realtors. The Africa Investors Academy is growing. I think we're at 75 members currently. The Travel Move Do Business conferences, they're selling out, right? It's amazing. Our Africa Wealth Strategy clients that are getting diversified in real estate and financial investments with tax and, you know, estate planning efficiencies. It's great. It's great. We're building now. I'm definitely more of a build mode when I'm here in South Africa and a work mode versus when I'm in Tanzania, because it's just a different vibe and it's a different pace. But I love it, and I'm so grateful that I've gotten to do that, and I'm grateful that I've gotten to share with y'all, and that you're finding value in the journey. All right. So if you have an interest, go ahead, join us, Travel Move Do Business. The link is scrolling on the screen. I'm going to jump into a couple of questions with you all. Let's jump into a couple of questions. If you have questions, go ahead, type question before your question so that I can answer it. Okay. All right. Yeah, Netflix, can I think about all the time? Bonta, she'll be reaching out soon. I don't see any questions, guys. And it doesn't mean that you didn't ask a question, but it just means you might have asked it like earlier on. So don't be mad. Go ahead and drop it again. Am I kin to Dr. James Cleveland? Is this James Cleveland? No. Edward Cleveland. Or James Cleveland? Is Dr. James Cleveland pastor? Deceased, right? But pastor of 7 days, like Seventh-day Adventist Church, Huntsville. And you asking that question and me not really being sure is really interesting, right? Because there's a lot of James is a very common name And I know a couple Clevelands that I'm not related to. But my grandfather, I was a bit estranged from. And so, yeah, was he a pastor of Seventh-day Adventist denomination? Let me know. Because then the answer is yes. That's my grandfather. Yeah. So if it's the same, but that would be a shame, right? If I don't know. A random question. You throw me off. Dig the voice. All right. So M Bright asks, I'm not sure if I can't see it. You answered this, but is Africa your final stop? Do you want to live anywhere else? I don't see myself living outside of the continent of Africa. I do see myself traveling Asia. In fact, I'll be in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, September for the Nomad Capitalist Live event. So excited about that. That will be my first time in Malaysia. Super excited about exploring more of Asia. I've been to Korea, South Korea, Japan, now Malaysia. I want to go to Singapore. Definitely want to do China, right, in the right way. But yeah, that is my answer. I will likely stay on the continent. I love living on this continent. I feel like this is the place where my soul and my spirit is so happy. My children will probably move abroad because they have now seen what it's like to move abroad. And so I might follow them when they decide that they want to move to another place or another country. But for now, I don't see myself moving anywhere outside of the continent of Africa. At least that's my answer for now. But great question. Thank you so much, Wisdom. Thanks for always showing up on the lives. Thank you so much. All right, let me take some water. All right, so let me tell you guys why most people aren't ready to do this. And you can tell me, right? But I think after doing this work for a few years, I've kind of boiled it down to why most people aren't ready to make this move, okay? So only 1 in 10 investors is prepared for relocation or cross-border protection. Only 1 in 10. So if you're not an investor, you know, that's a whole, investing is the way to wealth. Working a 9 to 5, trading your time for money will never get you the economic independence or freedom that you're looking for. Investing, whether that's in a business, in yourself, in an income producing asset, that is the only way for independence, financial independence, and wealth, right? But only 1 out of 10 of investors will actually be prepared for relocation or cross-border protection. So clarity, the role of clarity, mentorship, and legal infrastructure is what helps people. So people that just decide, hey, I'm going to move, I'm going to leave America because Babylon is falling. And, you know, like, I get it. And I felt your pain. I felt the energy, right? But I had a strategy. I had a certain amount of money. I knew I could live off of that amount of money if I did nothing for so many years. And I knew at some point, I'm going to have to make some money. I'm going to have to make some money. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but I need to figure it out. I can take off a year. I can take off 6 months. At the time, it was only supposed to be 6 months. That 6 months turned into 2 years because I budgeted my finances properly and I had some support initially, right? But then I needed to figure out how I was going to make an income. And so strategy is what it takes. Africa requires strategy, not just excitement. And so most people aren't ready because they don't have a strategy. They don't have clarity. They don't have mentorship. They don't have the legal infrastructure. And they're not prepared to invest in themselves. So that's how you're going to be successful. is being prepared with a strategy, investing in yourself, invest in mentorship, clarity, and legal infrastructure, right? This is how I help people diversify themselves, their real estate and financial investments. And so you are going to learn so much from joining us at the Travel Move Do Business. Yes. Can you bring me popcorn? Okay. Thank you, baby. And so that is going to propel you into success, because we're taking a collective combined over 30 years of expats being in their respective places in Tanzania, Zanzibar, Arusha, Dar es Salaam, and then you're getting Tanzanians, right, that travel all over the world, but they are committed to building their real estate firm, their law firms, their tourism business, their tech company, their exporting and agro processing business, right? So they're there and they're going to be sharing all of their experience, their recommendations, their what to do's, what not to do, so that you can be successful in your journey. But you have to invest in that clarity, in that mentorship, and create your own strategy, or work with someone that can create the strategy for you if you really want to do this thing and you want to be successful. All right. Awesome. Okay. Jamal says you want to buy an apartment in South Africa eventually. Awesome. Well, what's holding you back? What is your eventually, right? What is the goal? How do you measure that? Right? How are you, if that's a goal of yours, then is it a strategic goal? Is it a goal that you can stick to? Is it a goal that you can time? Is it a goal that you can measure? Right? Let's get so specific with our goals, so that way we can look back and say, you know what? I did this because I made this a goal and I was strategic in that goal. All right? Consistency is also important, but I'd say, consistency of nothing is nothing. Consistency of just hoping is just hoping, right? Your actions aligned with strategy is what is going to make you successful. I've seen it. I've seen people come and go. I've seen people lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. They say the best way to make a mini fortune in Africa is to come with a large one, right? So you can lose your money if you are not strategic, if you don't have legal protections, if you don't have someone supporting you, mentoring you along the process. If you think that you can just take the leap and you're not prayed up, you're not spiritually sound, you don't have mentorship, you don't have community, well, some can do it. Some have done it, right? But what did I say earlier? 2% of entrepreneurs, less than 2%, have an international wealth plan. And those people that have the money will be the people that lose the most without a strategy, right? So preparation now is key. Thank you, Jamara. Yeah, preparation now is key. All right. So the opportunity that I'm sharing with you is to join us at the Travel Move to Business Tanzania conference. Be sure to ask me more questions. If you have more questions, go ahead and list them in the chat. I want to chat with y'all for a while. It's Friday and I'm at home because it's cold outside and I'm not trying to go outside tonight. I'm going out tomorrow, so that's okay. But yeah, ask me some questions. I want you to come to the conference. Of course, you're going to learn how to successfully and safely travel, right? Because it all starts with a visit. How to travel to Tanzania. What is it going to cost you? Do you need immunizations? Do you need shots? How do you file for a visa? There are new requirements now to travel to Tanzania. When I was first traveling in Tanzania, half of the requirements that they have now, they did not have. I shared this with you maybe like 2 years ago almost, that travel to Africa is becoming more difficult, right? And so you need to be a lot more prepared. Get with people that are going to prepare you so you don't get yourself in a situation where you're having analysis paralysis or you're fearing the unknown. Just find out what you need to do, learn from someone who's done it, and invest in that process so you'll be successful, right? So you're also going to learn then, okay, once I travel, then how can I legally relocate? What are my options? What are the visa options for myself and my family? How do I find a house? How do I find a neighborhood? How do I find a hospital, right? We've created these resources for you so that you don't have to figure them out alone, right? These are things I figured out alone with the help of a couple friends that were Tanzanian, but it's also the fact that you're literally getting information, blueprints, toolkits, so that you don't have to do it on your own. You're going to hear from people that have done it, right? So maybe you don't relate to me, right? But you might relate to a younger couple that's in their early 30s that came from the US, right? They're entrepreneurs. Or you might relate to an older couple that's retired, former US federal workers, right? With adult children that also came and are building a life in Tanzania. You might relate to a couple that comes from, maybe somewhere in the South or in the North, right? And you might relate to them because they are having children, they're still having children. So you're going to get a perspective from multiple people, not just me, that are going to share with you how to legally do business, how they're doing business, how they're sustaining their lifestyle, some of their, healthcare choices, how they're healing chronic illnesses, healing high blood pressure, diabetes, different mental health challenges that they might have had living in the US, they're no longer experiencing now that they're living in Tanzania. These are the things that you're going to learn during the online conference, okay? And actually, for people that purchase an online conference ticket for Travel, Move, Do Business, you will actually get free 1 year, sorry, no, not 1 year, 1 month free access into the Africa Investors Academy that is now closed for enrollment. So we're not accepting new members, but for people that intentionally invest in themselves and attend this online conference, they're getting access into the community so that they can see the value of being in community and taking action and staying accountable and being around like minds that are fostering the conversations and the questions and the experiences that they either want to have or in the process of having or have had, and are sharing their feedback every 2 Sundays, every second Sunday and every last Sunday in our community. We've got deal flow in there. We're constantly sharing updates about what's happening in Tanzania, East Africa, and South Africa. And a lot of the folks that are in the community are looking at my strategy and saying, okay, I like what you're doing, so let me jump on with you. Let me figure out what's going on in Tanzania and in South Africa, right? So those are the things you're going to get at the Travel, Move, Do Business online conference. What else are you going to get? I put it in the chat. It's also scrolling. So the website is scrolling at the bottom. It's Africa Investors Academy /Travel, Move, Do Business Tanzania. If you just go to africainvestorsacademy.com, you can find the Tanzania online conference there. But the link is there in the chat, and it's also in the description. It will be in the pinned comment from this live, okay? What else? Behind the scenes of what's happening in tourism. So we're going to be talking about tourism industry. Tanzania just was voted the #1 tourism destination in all of Africa, right? Just stunning. You've got 5-star resorts coming into Tanzania like it is Formula One. Okay, St. Regis, Four Seasons, Hyatt, Four Senses, Six Senses. Yeah, Six Senses, Four Seasons, St. Regis. The tourism industry is booming in Tanzania. Thus, tourism-driven real estate, investing in income-producing assets. Tanzania is doing that trade. We're going to be talking about agro processing. We're going to be talking about real estate, tech, right? And relocation, how to do all of this legally. My personal attorney, April Ernest, she's going to be there talking to you about how to do this legally and how you can work with her directly, and she'll fast track your. It took me 2.5 years to find April, right? You're going to find her next weekend and be able to work with her, and she'll fast track your success by making sure you're legally protected and legally sound to travel, move, and do business. All right. In Tanzania. And then you're going to get referrals, you're going to get roadmaps, and you're going to get real live research on how to take action now, how to get your plan B in motion now. So you're not waiting for something else to drop. You're not waiting for the next bill to tell you what you can and can't do with your money. You're not waiting for the next legislation to pass telling you what you can and cannot teach to your children in public spaces. Like, you want to take action. Like, even if you're deciding, hey, I'm not ready to do it right now, get the information, get the paperwork going, get your legal protections in place now so that when you are ready, but you'll never be ready, that's the idea, right? You'll never be ready. You've got to do it while your body is telling you something is not right. Because guess what you can do? You can always go back. If it doesn't work out, you can always get on a flight, take the same flight that you took to get there and go right back. You can always do that as an American citizen. Just because you decide you might want to live abroad doesn't mean you renounce your citizenship. You will always be an American citizen unless you decide to do something about that. But you will always be an American citizen, and you can always return to the place of your citizenship. It is not a forever decision. It's the best decision maybe right now while things are chaotic. But what will happen likely, and it's for some it happens, for some it doesn't, but you'll probably decide that you like this life a little bit better. And you're going to try to figure it out and how to make it work. All right, so type ready in the chat if you're done waiting. If you're done waiting, you're done waiting for the next bill to pass, you're done waiting for the next tragedy to happen, type ready in the comments if you're done. I want to know. And if you're not done, let me know what is holding you back. Maverick says ready. I like that energy. Where else? Where's everyone else? Wisdom says ready. All right, Wisdom. And if you're not ready, let me know why in the chat. I'm interested to know. Jamara said, been ready. I know that's right. Okay. So you don't need another year of overthinking. You need strategy, you need access, you need a circle that understands the assignment and what is at stake. Travel, Move, Do Business Tanzania is where you can get started. Okay? It's where you can get started. So the link is in the description. It's also in the comments. I'll drop it in there again. Let me know if you have any questions. I want to know what your questions are. And we'll jump in, Jamal. What do I love about Tanzania more than South Africa? So Jamal, it's not a more. It's not an either or. There are things that I love about South Africa that, you know, I like better. But I'll say, and I shared it a little bit earlier, I can be on the road in Tanzania, and 5 minutes after I leave my house, I can get a fresh coconut. I can get madafu, coconut water, for like 1,000 T shilling, which is like, what is 1,000 T? It's like 40 cents, which is like 5 Rand, I think. 2 Rand, something like that. So 5 minutes before I leave my house, I can go anywhere, get fresh coconut water. I know I can have breakfast with fresh fruit, passion fruit, watermelon, mango, year round, bananas. Like, I know that I can have a conversation with someone in Kiswahili, right? I can have a cleaner experience of food and fruits and vegetables. But again, when I was in Tanzania and eating only that, I was missing the Italian food and the Asian food and the, like, so I love that about South Africa. I love the diversity of cuisine I can get. I love the upscale experiences that I can have in South Africa. I love, the experience of yachting in South Africa, also in Tanzania as well. I One thing I do love about Tanzania better than South Africa, uh, but it's not true because you can get in the ocean, right? I can swim in the warm Indian Ocean in Tanzania. I can swim in the ocean in Durban as well. All right, Durban is pretty warm. It's year round, kind of summer in Durban. So it's not a what's better. I like both. I love both. And I'll never choose if I don't have to. And I don't see why I would have to and why anyone has to. When you decide that you want to live in a life of choice and a life of freedom that is in alignment with your values, you can live wherever you want to live. You can spend summers in one country, winters in another country, spring in another country, fall in another country. You can do that. You get to, right? You get to do that. So I don't plan on choosing. I love both. It's so much that I love it so much that I haven't even made my way to West Africa because I'm like, ooh, do I want to go to West Africa or do I want to go back to East Africa? So yeah, I love East Africa. And it's not a shade to West Africa. I haven't experienced West Africa, but something about my spirit is so at peace and so at ease when I return to Tanzania. All right. What else? What other questions? Thank you, Christine. Thank you. I'm ready. My only struggle is daughter and a sophomore in high school, and she's in high school. She's scholar. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, and what does that mean, Lydia? Like, is it a struggle that she's a scholar? I don't understand that, but I'd say this, it's so it's going back to, why most people won't do it. It's not, oftentimes as parents, we like to put our children in the position of the reason why we don't do a thing. And really, our children should be the main reason why we do the thing, right? Our children are watching us. Our children are doing the things that we tell them not to do if we're doing it. So if you're telling your daughter she can do anything, the world is her oyster. She is an incredible human being that can do anything, right? Nothing can stop you from being successful or doing anything in your life. But we're not showing that to our children. They're not going to believe that they can, regardless of what we tell them, right? I have clients that have teenagers, sophomores, they transfer them. There's schools over here. There's online school that kids can do that's American accredited, right? There's universities over here. Our children are not the reason not to do the thing. Our children are the reason we must absolutely do the thing, because their future depends on it. They're growing up in a society that is clearly showing that they are not being valued, right? So what future are we fighting for, is my question. Because my children are the reason why I would never even consider going back. They wouldn't be able to be children the way they're able to be children here. They wouldn't be able to see themselves everywhere being in the global majority and seeing that they're in the global majority because they live in an environment that reflects that, right? So it's just an opportunity and an invitation to reconsider the struggle, because oftentimes it's not really what we say it is out of our mouth. That's an easy thing to say, but really it's a deeper opportunity to reflect and say, okay, what else is it really? because our children are the ones that benefit from it the absolute most. There is an infinite, insurmountable amount of value that my children are getting by having this experience that I can't measure today. And I can kind of see it when I look at some of their peers in the US, some of their friends and some of the kids that were, around their same age. I can clearly see the advantage as a parent. My children don't see it just yet. But when we're talking to schools and my daughter's doing internships and I'm understanding what it now takes to be attractive and competitive in today's space for our youth, the opportunity there is just really something to consider. Maverick says the only thing is I'm not sure if my child's dad would let my son go without him unless the country was in dire straits. Well, I would hate for you to have to get to that point to find out, because by that time, who knows if you're even going to be able to go anywhere. So that's an internal thing, Maverick. I understand. I completely understand, right? And this is a family dynamic concern for many people. I think there's an opportunity, right, depending on your co-parenting relationship, regardless of it, what it looks like. But really, if you have the emotional maturity, both of you, to have a conversation about what the future holds for the country and the environment that you're in, what do you really see as the opportunity for yourself and your children? What is the future of industry? What is the future of work? What is the future of growth? What is the future of society? What's the future of government? What's the future of racism? What is the future of it? Because over here on this side of the world, it looks like the future of government in America is going to be MAGA again. With the what is it called? The upcoming elections, right? The state elections, the local elections, the Democrats are falling by the wayside. Right? The Senate, the House, I mean, they're passing these bills in favor of big, beautiful Project 25. Democrats are not shining strongly. And Black people don't want to vote. I'm not suggesting that it works or it doesn't work, but I'm just saying, what does the future look like? So sit down with your co-parent and be like, what does the future look like? And understand your legal rights as the parent as well. What are your legal rights to make and take action? This isn't just, we don't look at a problem and say, oh, that's a problem. We got to be solution oriented, because the last thing we want to do is wait for the bomb to go off. And then we're talking about, oh, now it's time to go. And bomb, I meaning not literal, but I mean, it's like dropping every day. When that big beautiful bill was one heck of one. If you guys haven't read it, or if you're not aware of what that means, right? But then someone taking out a representative and her husband, like domestic terrorism at an all-time high. I mean, I don't know. I'm just like, these are drastic things. These aren't normal things. So where you're saying dire straits, what is dire? What is the definition of dire? Because it's looking dire to me. The National Guard is in control in California. Flooding happening because of weather manipulation. These are things that aren't even conspiracies anymore. So what does dire look like? I want to know. And we got to be solution oriented. We cannot just sit back and be like, oh, well, God will make a way. Because God is giving you vision. God is giving you helpmate. God is giving you insight, And I'm not saying government really controls your life, because it doesn't. But you've got the most powerful passport, not the most, but it's the top 10 for now. Use what you've got. to make choices and make decisions, because it's not a forever thing. It can be a visit. It can be a visit. It can be a simple visit. Hey, I'm going to take a look. I want you to come with me. Come so we can go see what it's like. So we can see if there's something that we could do eventually, right? Give us some honey, give us some sugar. You can do a lot more with sugar than you can with vinegar, right? I think it would be great for our son if we could get, have an experience. I hear this about this country. They're growing economically. You do this, whatever industry he's in, you're in construction, you're a technologist, you're a data entry, whatever. Like, there's an opportunity for us to look and see what problems we can solve. I think you should come with us. Let's go take a week. Let's save up for a week's trip. Let's put it on a credit card. Okay, we got to use this credit system for what it's providing, right? So I give my clients a better strategy. Like, I've worked with many mothers in your situation. So I'm not speaking at you. I'm literally speaking with you because I had to go through the same process. And I've helped many people, many women figure it out, right? And so if there is a will, there is a way. That saying is true. But I help people to be able to do this so that they can bring their families. I literally, one of our clients just had her husband here with their family. He wasn't thinking about South Africa, right? So he came, saw it for himself. It is looking at it now with serious intention. Okay, so there's a way, E Maverick. And I appreciate you and thank you for opening up and allowing me to share that with love, okay? How much should you have saved up before moving to Africa? Have you been to Accra? Tanzania and Accra are my first two choices. Thank you for creating this channel. It's very much appreciated. You're very welcome. What's up, YouTube fam? Thank you so much. That how much you need question is very contingent upon your lifestyle, right? So I'm super excited. We have a new platform that we're launching in August. I can't say too much about it just yet, but that question gets asked so much. It's about your quality of life. What are you spending now, right? So based on what you're spending now, I always advise people have 3 to 6 months of savings if you have an income coming in. So you already need to have an income. If you don't have an income, you need at least 2 years of savings based on 2 years of your monthly cost of living saved up. But you need to hit the ground running, building a business, because that savings can go very, 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 very fast. So it's not just how much you should have saved, but how much you should be bringing in. What type of asset, income earning asset do you have that's bringing you in a monthly income that might not be high now, but eventually has the capacity to grow? So when I started my business and failed at one business, I just needed to prove to myself I could make an extra $1,500 every month. If I could do that, then my goal was, all right, I just need to make $3,000 a month. Then my goal got to $5,000 a month. Then my goal got to $10,000 a month. Now my goal is $20,000 a month, but it's really $100,000 a month, right? So you just have to have an asset, an income producing skill that's going to bring you some money. So it's about that and about your quality of life. I haven't been to Accra. I have people that love Accra, and I have a lot of clients that left Accra and came to South Africa because they love being there, they love visiting, but living there is another story and it's a different experience for them. So Accra, you really got to have some money, okay? Because Accra is expensive. So if you're looking at Tanzania, between Tanzania and Accra, similar kind of infrastructure. Growth, I think, is a lot stronger in Tanzania just from an infrastructure perspective. But I love Tanzania, right? Obviously, my preference is Tanzania for my lifestyle and my quality of living. But you're very welcome. Thank you for your kind words. If you're finding value, feel free to support the channel with the super chat. That's always appreciated. We love generosity on this channel. All right. Christine says, calling my girlfriend tonight to see if she will go to Africa with me. She just came back from Bogota. Fantastic. Wonderful. Hey, Ashley, what your DNA say you connected to over there? My DNA say I'm a descendant of melanated people, the original people. So the original people come from the most melanated rich place on earth, which is the continent of Africa. So I haven't done my DNA. I'm not saying I won't do it, but I know historically where the original people come from with melanin. So if you got some melanin, the original land, the cradle of humankind, is here on the continent of Africa. And from here, we were explorers and voyagers of the entire world. And so we ended up all over this world. But the original humans came from Africa. So that's what the history says. The history not created by the people that are teaching it and making the books, right? That have made the books that we've learned from, but the original creators of the most original text, the original language, the original civilizations started on the continent of Africa. So we got a couple book recommendations and documentary recommendations that we share inside the community, the Africa Investors Academy. So once you join, you get all of those opportunities to research the true history of our people. And that's one of my favorite parts of the community. But thanks for asking, PP Bob. Wonderful. It's an hour and a half here on the live with y'all. This has been powerful. I've really enjoyed it. If you found value in this, please be sure to like the video. Super, super, super honored to do this work. It is no joke. It's no joke. I'm super busy tomorrow, working on a Saturday and on a Sunday. Because this is purpose driven, right? This is purpose driven work, but plan Bs are required. And this is the plan B that no one is talking about. Nobody's talking about this plan B. I mean, people are talking about exodus and people are leaving, right? American wealth is leaving in droves. I mean, I'm helping people regularly that are taking their finances and moving it abroad. And we're helping them with strategy, tax efficiencies, and estate planning efficiencies. And so you don't just need another year of overthinking. You don't need another year to think about what could happen or if the country gets in dire straits. And, you need a plan B. And it doesn't mean it has to be a forever plan. It just needs to be a strategy where you have access to ideas and opportunities outside of the things that you're regularly seeing on media and on social, right? Against a community of people that are doing that thing. So you don't have to take my word for it, right? It's not just me. You're going to hear from other experts, other expats, other African Americans that felt the way that you felt 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 7 years ago, and said, you know what, I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to do this because something is telling me that this is the best decision that I can make in this time. None of them regret it. The only regret is that they wish they would have done it sooner. All right. What is a super chat? Oh, PP Bob says it's when you give Ashley $100 for coffee for dropping gems. Yeah, there's a little button somewhere that says I think it's got like a money button and you can donate to the channel. It's a super chat. It's basically and then you write a chat in that, right? And a certain message or something that you want me to see. All right. PP Bobs. Most Black people connected to Nigeria DNA since they use stocky Nigerian men. Okay. I mean, it wasn't just Nigeria. But okay. Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Benin, Togo, Wow, Gambia, Angola, like all over the continent. There was also people taken from Eastern and Southern Africa, right? So most is a big, very generalized term, but I hear where you're coming from. Christine says, stupid question. There's no such question. Your credit score doesn't matter there. Also, do you have to pay taxes in USA and Africa? Yes. So, sorry, excuse me. Credit doesn't necessarily matter. Depends on what country you go to, and it depends on the reason in which you think you might need credit. Some people are very adept to what's happening in the US and they want to know, right? If you're going to rent their home. But 9 times out of 10, no, I wouldn't completely abandon that. But it is a system that is very specific to the US. The US is actively over here, guys. I want y'all to know that. US companies are here, US banks are here. US politicians are here building businesses, buying land, creating farms. Like they've been here. They're telling you to stay put and fight the good fight. They're over here building businesses, building legacy, building life in Africa. Okay. So those institutions are coming this side. They are bringing credit systems and creating that over here. So yes, that is something that is happening. And yes, you do have to pay taxes to America, even when you're living in Africa. But how you pay taxes is very important. That's why strategy matters. That's why working with someone and getting mentorship matters, so that you can figure out how to legally structure yourself and your finances so that you're not putting yourself in a bad position. So you're living tax efficiently, right? I saved over $10,000 in taxes last year by living outside of America, doing business in Africa. So I didn't pay the amount of taxes that I probably would have paid if I earned the same amount of money living in the US. So you have to get mentorship and experts to help you so that you don't make the mistakes that aren't unnecessary mistakes. All right. Wonderful, guys. Thank you so much for joining the live. Thank you, Ty Harrington, for the potential super chat. I appreciate you. I feel like I want to help you find it, but if you find it, great. If you don't, the intention is what matters. I really appreciate you joining the live. Join the Travel Move Do Business Tanzania conference. The link is in the description for the replay. It's scrolling below below me. And I cannot wait to see you there. And continue to subscribe for more truth, more tools, and more traction if this is the journey that you want to take for yourself and your family. All right. So until the next video, guys, I'll see you soon.